Cesar Chavez, migrant hero. Harvested by hand. You probably know that the fruits, nuts, and the vegetables you eat were once crops that grew in fields. But do you ever stop to wonder how those crops are harvested? Some are harvested by machines, but many fruits in particular are too delicate. Research shows that nearly half of all U.S. fruit is still harvested by hand. Most of those hands belong to migrant workers who travel from farm to farm, picking fresh fruit so that we can eat it. It's hard work that can pay little, and the migrant workers aren't always treated well by the farmers who hire them. One man spent his life trying to help migrant workers. His name was Cesar Chavez. A migrant's life. Cesar Estrada Chavez was born to a Mexican-American family in 1927 near Yuma, Arizona. As a child, he lived on a small farm. Cesar loved life on the farm, but dishonest men cheated the Chavez family in 1937. They lost their land. The family joined the many other poor families who traveled west during the Great Depressions, looking for jobs as migrant farm workers. Life on the road was very different for the Chavez family from life on their farm in Arizona. Many farmers live in Arizona wanted the people to work for little pay. Then the farmers could keep more money from the food they sold. As a result, life was for migrant farm workers was often terrible. Workers toiled in the hot sun for hours, but sometimes had to pay for any water they drank in the fields. The workers spent much of the little money they made on temporary housing, usually run-down shacks that were hot in summer, cold in winter. The shacks often came with holes and insects, but no bathroom or any way to cook. Sometimes, instead of the mattresses to sleep on, owners gave the workers straw. For several years, the Chavez family moved around California, finding work wherever they could. By the time Cesar graduated from the 8th grade, he had gone to more than 30 schools. He was often teased because he didn't have decent clothes or shoes, and because he spoke English with a Spanish accent. Cesar and his siblings worked in the fields with their parents on weekends and during the summer. It was hard work, yet migrant workers were often cheated out of their they often cheated out of their already low wages. One time, Cesar's whole family worked for 7 days a week. At the end of the harvest, they found that their boss had left without paying them, and that there was nothing they could do. Even though they harvested tons of fruit and vegetables, they barely earned enough to feed themselves, let alone enough to save the get ahead. The best hope for most migrants was and is the education of their children, but the education for migrant children was hard to come by. Many migrant children grew up in the fields and started working as young as age 8. Cesar himself left school after the 8th grade to work in the fields, full-time to help support his family. Without good education, the children often kept doing migrant work when they grew up, and the cycle continued. The birth of union. When Chavez grew up, he decided to start a labor union for farm workers. A labor union is a group of workers who unite to demand certain rights and benefits. A union can go on strike, refusing to work and shutting down a factory or company until its demands are met. Almost every industry, from truck drivers to movie actors, has a union to protect its workers. Chavez knew a union could make big improvements in the lives of farm workers too. Yet, many people considered organizing a labor union for farm workers to be possible. Farm workers moved around by follow to the crops, never staying in one place long enough to plan action. There were often recent immigrants who did not speak English well. Also, farm workers had no laws protecting them from being fired if they tried to form a union. Although other people before Chavez had tried and failed, he said, Cesar put, yes, it can be done. Chavez met with farm workers in their homes and talked with them about their problems. He was small and soft-spoken, but he was very persuasive. His union grew slowly, one worker at a time. The Grape Strike. In 1965, a group of Filipino farm workers went to strike against the grape growers in Delano, California. They were asking for a pay raise from $0.90 an hour to $1.40 an hour. Chavez knew he had to support the Filipino strikers. His organization voted to join the strike. Soon, more than 2,000 migrants stopped working. Strikers and their families went to cities all across North America, telling people about the working conditions of the grape pickers and asking them to boycott grapes. More than 14 million Americans did just that. Angry grape growers made threats on Chavez's life. Support for the boycott continued though, and after 5 long years, the grape growers agreed to the union's demands. Other strikes and boycotts followed not just in California, but also in Texas. New unions formed in the Midwest. In 1975, California finally passed a law that protected farm workers from being fired when they tried to unite. Against all odds, Chavez's efforts had succeeded. At its height, his organization, the United Farm Workers, included 50,000 farm workers. We shall be heard, Chavez said, and they were. A fond farewell. Cesar Chavez died in his sleep on April 23, 1993. He was 60 years old. Thousands of farm workers and supporters came to his funeral. It was the largest funeral for many labor leaders in his history of the United States. He was a humble and courageous man who spent his life helping others. For all his work to improve wages and working conditions for farm workers, Chavez himself never earned more than $6,000 per year. Still, as he said, the rich may have money, but the poor have time. His fight for the dignity of all people inspired millions of Americans to work for social justice around the world.